Thank you very much. John McDonnell, MP, and a long-time supporter, who himself, as he said at a meeting last year, is someone now with invisible impairment since his heart troubles. So, John.
Thanks, Richard. And just to say this, as you say, I think you got me on board, as you say, a couple of years after your launch. I just want to say thanks to you for your commitment and dedication of organising this each year, and your team of volunteers. I know just how much work you put into it and how difficult it is sometimes in organising, especially this year with having to go online. But I just want to say thanks. I think it's an incredible achievement, and each year it gets bigger, and actually it gets more exciting as well. The range of subjects you've covered has been terrific. Look, I'll be very brief because there's lots of speakers. The choice of access this year, I think, is absolutely fundamental. We've argued for a while in lots of the discussions that we've had, that access is a fundamental human right. It's about making sure that people can participate on an equal level with everybody else. And it means making sure that people can fully participate in every aspect of life. And that's a huge goal we've got to achieve. And if you look at, you put on the website itself some of the history of this, it hasn't come easy. And again, I think we need to pay tribute to all those who've worked so hard in the past in these struggles for access. Initially, of course, it was about physical access, and that wasn't just about transport or anything like that. I can remember all the campaigns as we undertook as trade unions to make sure that disabled workers had access in the same way as other workers, and therefore were not denied opportunities to develop their skills, their talents, and their careers as a result. But it was also about basic access and mobility, and it has been hard fought for. It's been a process of campaigning with direct action. And I remember Dan, the direct access network, and the chaining to buses. Actually, one of the groups that was forgotten was in my patch when years ago a group of people, disabled people, just turned up one day at Uxbridge tube station and chained themselves to the tube and didn't allow it to go out because of the lack of access from the platforms. And again, it got a bit heavy, to be honest, but it was worth it because it got massive publicity. And all of a sudden, there was a huge debate about London transport and how it could be improved. And again, that then translated from direct action into lobbying and then actually legislating. But the issue around legislation was always about enforcement after legislation has been brought through. And time again, disability campaigners have been making it clear that there's no use legislating unless you can have proper enforcement. And often that enforcement has to demonstrate the investment that has gone in, particularly around physical investment in changing the infrastructure and particularly our transport networks. I also say what I've welcomed over the last couple of years is the neurodiversity group. In the Labour Party, we set up a neurodiversity group, and we actually developed, and Marshall was involved in this, the Neurodiversity Manifesto. And that was about a discussion about a whole range of aspects of access, things around universal design. It was also about looking at assistive technology, and I think it's developed a momentum of its own now, and that's been a huge breakthrough. The other aspect as well is that we've now got large numbers of student groups who are campaigning around access in terms of higher education and the support that people need to fulfill their ambitions and often their dreams about the lives that they want to undertake in the future. And I just think we're on the edge, we're potentially on the edge of quite radical change, particularly because now with new technology, we can develop the range of access that people can achieve. So it is about making sure that innovation is driven by disabled people themselves, obviously working with allies, but making sure that innovation comes from investment in research and development, and then the application, and then the investment of resources to make sure that those applications are accessible to everyone. So again, I just say this in conclusion, really, the next wave of campaigning, I think, is going to be absolutely critical. I want us to work together now to see what further legislative change we need. Nothing comes easy on all of this. It's campaigning, but unless we can actually get legislation, the actual laws in place to enable us to exercise this basic right of access, unless we can get that in place, I think we always were impeded in terms of developments for the future. So in this coming period, one of the things that I'll be doing, working with Marsha and other parliamentarians, is talking to the campaigning organisations about the nature of the legislation that we need. And I'd welcome that discussion to go on during the History Month that we've now organised. Let me make this one final point as well. We can legislate, we can argue for investment, we can develop new technologies, we can ensure that people understand and recognise the right to access. But actually, one of the basic elements of this as well is to make sure that people have the right income and support to access a full life. So part of our campaigning in this current period, where there is still, we're still a society that suffers after 10 years of austerity. There is still now discussions, even now in government, and about another round of austerity coming at us. I think one of the key aspects that we've also got to campaign for is access will only come if people have appropriate income support to give them the independent living that they deserve. And alongside that, the investment in a national care and support service, which again, on the same basis the NHS, is there for people on the basis of need when they want it, but paid for directly through taxation. Again, that's the sort of issues, I think, the demands that we need to be making this coming period to secure that basic human right of access.
Thank you very much, John. Brilliant as always. Thank you very much. We will be making some suggestions later on about what legislation we need. It's very clear that the current legislation might be there, but there's nothing to enforce it, and that's one of the problems. So thank you very much. I know you have to go, but thank you for giving us some time. You've got another meeting, I believe. So if you'd like to click out of the meeting, that's great.